We said they were state actors, didn't we? Now we have them nailed to the wall, dead to rights. And not only them, but the state for whom they were acting, the deep state. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. I have known for many years that the largest technological companies, the big tech firms, you know their names, have routinely censored conservative opinion. Roughly since midterms 2018, these firms have seemed to coordinate their efforts. Yet, whenever any of them stood accused of being state actors, they each responded that they were private firms and they were simply acting to protect the internet as they saw fit. Not just their own users, the internet itself. Until today, I could assume only that all these firms and their staffs were mutually simpatico, and that alone explained the coordination. But an unlikely source reveals the central nexus of that coordination, which is the United States government itself, or to be more specific, the deep state. Before I lay it all out for you, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which reads, 1984 was not an instruction manual. At least it wasn't supposed to be. But a lot of people in and out of government have taken instruction from it instead of the warning George Orwell intended. One more thing. If you like what you're about to see, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click on that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do. Now then, I will begin by describing that unlikely source. It calls itself the Intercept. They have existed since 2014. Here is what they say about themselves. Quote, "The Intercept is an award-winning news organization dedicated to holding the powerful accountable through fearless adversarial journalism. Its in-depth investigations and unflinching analysis focus on politics, wars, surveillance, corruption, the environment, technology, criminal justice, the media, and more. The Intercept gives its journalists the editorial freedom and legal support they need to expose corruption and injustice wherever they find it." Pierre Omidyar, eBay founder and philanthropist, provided the funding to launch the Intercept in 2014. Today, the Intercept is also fueled by the generosity of its members, a community of committed readers who financially support its mission and goals, and institutional contributors who support the Intercept's mission. Close quote. Now, who those institutions are, I have no idea. Memberships start at $15 for one time, $5 per month, or $15 per year, but can run much higher if the member wants. Their politics are definitely leftist, as a sampling of their articles shows. So they have no brief for President Trump or for any conservative. I don't really know where their sympathies lie. The Intercept is therefore the perfect organ to break the story of big tech firms being state actors after all. This story is likely the most sensitive story they've ever done. It is so sensitive that I'm going to give you the links from it through the Wayback Machine when I can do that without something somewhere along the line throwing an error when I try to load it. This is going to be the biggest test of their courage they've ever had. And to serve you, my viewers, I need to use every possible backstop in case their courage fails them and they take the story down. The Wayback Machine is the best backstop I have found so far, and I highly recommend it to you. They do try to take pictures of everything on the internet as it appears, but they can't be everywhere. You can join for free, and if you see something you want them to archive, you can tell them. They've got a Save Page Now service just for that. And no, they are not a sponsor of me or of conservative news and views. It goes without saying that I have linked to the original Intercept story through the Wayback Machine. The Intercept broke this story on Monday and called it Truth Cops. They take a tone that suggests they might even be simpatico with the censorship coordination they have discovered. Or at least with the ostensible aim. Well, judge for yourself. But if they've held anything back, what they've already revealed should shock anyone who thinks he's getting the straight scoop. Regular readers will recall CNAV's Ministry of Truth articles about the formation, the scale back, and the shutdown of the Disinformation Governance Board. Make that alleged shutdown because the Department of Homeland Security did not shut it down. They merely moved it underground. DHS did fire Nina Jankowicz, the head of it, but maybe her entire tenure, her termination, indeed the whole thing that called itself the Disinformation Governance Board were all kabuki theater. The real Ministry of Truth is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA. They put on an impressive front, pretending to defend the country against hacker gangs, foreign information warfare divisions, or whatever kind of threat they can invent. Yes, I said invent. Whoever writes their script ought to be writing motion picture treatments. Their About page gives their ostensible mission and also names their director, Jen Easterly, and her deputy, Nitin Natarajan. Now, you heard me mention the James Bond franchise before. Now, if you've subscribed to any of many online movie streaming services that carry these movies, maybe you remember the 1965 film Thunderball. And if you've seen it, you'll remember something calling itself the International Brotherhood of Resistance to Oppression. That organization was, of course, a front for the Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion, or SPECTRE for short. Whether they meant to or not, the Intercept, with their story, is taking you into the boardroom. And now we are going into the boardroom. No, we're not going to see Director Easterly or Secretary Mayorkas electrocute anybody for non-performance or improper performance of duty, as Ernst Stavro Blofeld famously does when you first see the Spectre boardroom in the movie Thunderball. But we will examine minutes of its meetings. Before we start, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Now, whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities that company provides, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Now, the Intercept begins with minutes of a meeting of the CISA Cybersecurity Advisory Committee held April 12, 2022. I have a direct link to those minutes in the description from the service called Document Cloud. They're so big they can't go through the Wayback Machine without error. This agenda statement says it all. Quote, "The core of CISA's mission is to safeguard America's critical infrastructure. The nation has seen the corrosive effects of mis, dis, and malinformation, MDM, across a host of our critical infrastructure in recent years, impacting our election system, telecommunication infrastructure, and our public health infrastructure. As there is no shortage of entities working on MDM issues, CISA is evaluating how to best engage in the space in an additive way, while safeguarding our credibility as an independent agency ahead of the next election cycle." The Intercept kindly defines the information terms in the above statement like this: misinformation is false information one does not know is false. Disinformation is false information that, from their point of view, someone might spread knowing it's false, meaning they're accusing that someone of lying deliberately. Malinformation is true information shared in or out of context to bring harm to others. As usual, the devil lies in the details. Who decides what's true or false? Who decides what true information the government must hold back to avoid harm? And harm to whom? The agency, that's who. The Intercept shares much shorter minutes of a meeting of March 1st, 2022, and those minutes I do share through the Wayback Machine. At that meeting, Ms. Laura Demlow of the Federal Bureau of Investigation said, and I quote, "We need a media infrastructure that is held accountable," unquote, Agent Demlow. Accountable to whom? To CISA and the FBI, especially its new Foreign Intelligence Task Force. Facebook, or Meta, as the parent company now calls itself, appears to be the worst offender. They gave CISA a direct portal that only a government agent may use. I have a direct link in the description to a document describing that portal and how to use it. The Intercept said in their piece, quote, "At the time of writing, the content request system at facebook.com/xtakedown/login is still live," unquote. Well, you know what? I just checked that portal, and it's still live right now. And somebody at Facebook is pretty careless, because the Wayback Machine turns out to have crawled it a long time ago. Because when you save a page into the Wayback Machine, if you're the first person to bring it to their attention, they tell you. They call it a first archive. This wasn't. I've left the link in the description. You can try it for yourselves. The internet candidly tells us how dangerous this campaign is. Quote, "How disinformation is defined by the government has not been clearly articulated, and the inherently subjective nature of what constitutes disinformation provides a broad opening for DHS officials to make politically motivated determinations about what constitutes dangerous speech," close quote. Now, this operation did not begin with the Biden administration. President Trump ordered his own HomeSec to set it up in 2018. Now, why would he do such a silly thing? Because he suffered in this and other contexts from an appalling failure of imagination. I believe elements of the intelligence community, which made the Department of Homeland Security one of their particular hotbeds, deceived him. They not only deceived him, they betrayed him in the election of 2020. We know of all these things because the Attorneys General of Missouri and Louisiana, together with Jim Hoft of the Gateway Pundit and others, filed a massive lawsuit and forced their disclosure. The defendants, seemingly everybody from the president down, are too numerous to name. I've left a Wayback Machine link in the description to their second amended complaint, so you can see it there. It's got the whole rogues gallery. It even has Anthony Fauci, his ostensible boss, Javier Becerra, the Sec Health, Karine Jean-Pierre, on and on and on. The list of defendants alone runs to 6 pages and on to page 7 once you get past the short list of plaintiffs. And let me quote from paragraph 2 of the complaint. This is why I am complaining today. Quote, a private entity violates the First Amendment if the government coerces or induces it to take action the government itself would not be permitted to do, such as censor expression of a lawful viewpoint. Biden versus Knight, First Amendment Institute at Columbia University, 141 Supreme Court 1220 and 1226, 2021, Thomas J. concurring. The government cannot accomplish through threats of adverse government action what the Constitution prohibits it from doing directly. Idem. Close quote. We deal here with government coercion or inducement. We can't tell which, but we do have evidence of government instruction, which proves one or the other. We may soon learn a great deal more because Twitter was one of those state actors along with Facebook. According to the Intercept, Vijaya Gadda, Twitter's Director of Legal Policy, Trust and Safety, served on the CISA Advisory Committee. Minutes of a June meeting, to which I've left a link in the description, contain a list of attendees with a line listing Twitter as an organization represented there. Someone has redacted the name of that Twitter official, but it could only have been Gadda, per Occam's razor. 2 events happened last springtime, and at the time, I didn't see the connection. First was the beginning of the Twitter war with Elon Musk. Second was the establishment of the Disinformation Governance Board. Well, again, you know what Ian Fleming said about coincidence. I quote, once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, and the third time it's enemy action. Unquote, Ian Fleming. And again, the Intercept's motives are unclear. Are they celebrating or condemning? Either way, they quote with remarkable candor this warning from Adam, C-A-N-D-E-U-B, pronounced Candoib, as I suspect, professor of law at Michigan State and one of the few people in the Trump administration who did not betray him. Quote, when the government supports things, it's not too hard to pull off the velvet glove and you get the mail fist. And I would consider such actions, especially when it's bureaucratized, as essentially state action and government collusion with the platforms, unquote, Professor Candoib. And that is exactly what we see. And hey, Professor, if I've mangled your name thinking you were of German extraction, leave me a comment and let me know. So, what do we have? At best, this affair represents mission creep by the agency George W. Bush created to stop foreign, non-government organizational actors from committing acts of war like the attacks of September 11th, 2001. Now, whether Osama bin Laden and the organization he formed that called itself The Base really did carry out those attacks with or without key people in government looking the other way, or whether government agents staged the whole thing, killed all those people in the buildings and the airliners, and maybe had the North and South Towers and Building 7 rigged with explosives to bring those buildings down by controlled implosions anytime they wanted, is a debate for another day. I have no evidence from that day beyond my watching the second plane fly into the South Tower on a live CBS feed from one of their helicopters, which was watching the whole thing from behind the Empire State Building. That, and talking to witnesses, some of whom barely escaped with their lives. Anyway, That's when W set up DHS. At worst, we see treason against the president, meaning Trump, and treason against the United States. We knew the big tech firms were playing the role of state actors. We did not know until now that they were literal state actors. Not only did they take instruction from the government, they took an active role in planning a campaign of censorship. Nadine Strossen, former president of the American Civil Liberties Union, said this for attribution by the Intercept, quote, "If a foreign authoritarian government sent those messages, there is no doubt we would call it censorship," unquote, Nadine Strossen. Well, Nadine, why don't you call it censorship? Does your loyalty to the atheistic and one-world government agenda of this administration blind you to the authoritarian nature of its methods? I put it to you that if a government has to take such measures to further its agenda, that alone constitutes grounds to question that agenda. I go further. I condemn the agenda of this administration and its allies in Congress in the strongest possible terms. Everyone, whether government official or agent or private executive who had any part in it, rates investigation and possibly indictment. The president, vice president, and the named defendants in Missouri versus Biden rate impeachment. The pathway to this, the thorough house cleaning of our government, begins with your vote. Links in the description of the article, to the Intercept piece, to CISA's homepage, to all those minutes and the lawsuit complaint I mentioned, including the live Facebook portal link, to my new Declaration of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to ourcivilized.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to earlier videos I've done under the heading of Ministry of Truth and my Twitter War playlist. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.